Imagine you walk into a grocery store and pick up a bright, flawless tomato. A week later, it still looks fresh, no wrinkles, no soft spots. A month later, it's still perfect. But then you start wondering, what's really inside this tomato? Now, meet the Flavr Savr tomato, the first genetically modified fruit approved for human consumption. Scientists designed it to stay fresh longer, but soon, concerns about health risks, corporate control over seeds, and environmental consequences started to surface. This tomato is an example of GMOs, genetically modified organisms, plants or animals that have had their DNA altered in a lab to enhance certain traits, like pest resistance or longer shelf life. Some call GMOs the future of food security. Others say they threaten biodiversity and natural farming. The story of the Flavr Savr serves as a potent reminder that technological advancements in agriculture are not without their complexities. So, where do we draw the line? Do we trust science, or are we playing with something we don't fully understand? Let's dive into the hidden truth about genetically modified plants, their risks, benefits, and what they mean for the future of our food. Would you eat a fruit that never rots? Let me know in the comments. The introduction of GMOs into our food system has ignited widespread debate, with concerns about potential risks to human health and the environment at the forefront. Critics argue that the long-term effects of consuming genetically modified foods are still unknown, citing potential allergic reactions, antibiotic resistance, and other unforeseen health consequences. Concerns also extend to the environment, with critics expressing anxieties about the potential for GMOs to contaminate non-GMO crops, harm beneficial insects, and contribute to the development of herbicide-resistant superweeds. Proponents of GMOs counter these concerns by pointing to the rigorous safety testing that genetically modified crops undergo before they reach the market. They argue that decades of scientific research have found no conclusive evidence linking GMO consumption to adverse health effects in humans. Regarding environmental concerns, proponents highlight the potential for GMOs to reduce pesticide use, conserve water, and promote sustainable agricultural practices. The debate over the safety and environmental impact of GMOs remains complex and emotionally charged, demanding a careful examination of scientific evidence, rigorous risk assessment, and ongoing monitoring to ensure the well-being of both human health and the environment. One of the most pressing concerns surrounding GMOs is their potential impact on biodiversity, the intricate web of life that sustains our planet. Critics argue that the widespread adoption of genetically modified crops could lead to a loss of genetic diversity within crop species, making them more susceptible to diseases and pests. Furthermore, they express concern that the cross-pollination of GMOs with wild relatives could result in the unintended spread of modified genes, potentially disrupting ecosystems and threatening the survival of native plant species. Proponents of GMOs counter these concerns by emphasizing the role that biotechnology can play in conserving biodiversity. They point to the development of genetically modified crops that are resistant to pests and diseases, reducing the need for harmful pesticides that can harm beneficial insects and disrupt ecological balance. Additionally, they highlight the potential for GMOs to enhance crop yields, reducing the need to convert more land for agriculture, thus preserving natural habitats and promoting biodiversity. The rise of GMOs has sparked a fierce debate about the future of agriculture, pitting the promise of biotechnology against the traditions and values of conventional farming. Critics argue that the widespread adoption of GMOs could lead to the consolidation of power within the agricultural industry, with small-scale farmers struggling to compete with large corporations that control the production and distribution of genetically modified seeds. They also express concern that the increasing reliance on GMOs could erode traditional farming knowledge and practices, passed down through generations, threatening the cultural heritage and livelihoods of farming communities worldwide. Proponents of GMOs argue that biotechnology can empower farmers of all sizes by providing them with tools to increase yields, reduce input costs, and enhance the sustainability of their operations. They point to the potential for GMOs to help farmers in developing countries overcome challenges such as drought, pests, and diseases, improving food security and enhancing livelihoods. Section 5. The consumer's right to know, transparency, and choice in the GMO debate. At the heart of the GMO debate lies a fundamental question. Should consumers have the right to know whether the food they're eating contains genetically modified ingredients? Advocates for GMO labeling argue that consumers have a right to make informed choices about the food they consume, and that transparency is essential for building trust in the food system. They contend that mandatory labeling would empower consumers to align their purchasing decisions with their values, whether they choose to embrace or avoid GMOs. Opponents of mandatory GMO labeling argue that it would unfairly stigmatize genetically modified foods, implying that they are inherently different or less safe than their non-GMO counterparts. They contend that such labeling could mislead consumers, create unnecessary fear and confusion, and ultimately drive up food prices. The debate over GMO labeling highlights the complex interplay of consumer rights, scientific evidence, industry interests, and public perception, underscoring the need for clear, accurate, and accessible information to empower consumers to make informed decisions. Section 6. Science versus Skepticism, examining the evidence on GMO safety. The debate over GMOs often pits scientific consensus against public skepticism, creating, a chasm between expert opinion and consumer perception. Numerous scientific organizations, including the World Health Organization and the National Academy of Sciences, have concluded that genetically modified foods are as safe for human consumption as their non-GMO counterparts. These conclusions are based on decades of research and rigorous safety assessments that evaluate the potential risks of GMOs throughout their life cycle, from development to consumption. Despite this scientific consensus, public skepticism toward GMOs persists, fueled by concerns about potential long-term health effects, environmental risks, and the influence of large corporations on the food system. This skepticism highlights the importance of clear and transparent communication from scientists, regulators, and the biotechnology industry to address public concerns, dispel misinformation, and foster trust in the safety and regulation of GMOs. Section 7. Voices from the field. Farmers share their experiences with GMO crops. To gain a comprehensive understanding of the impact of GMOs, it's essential to listen to the voices of those most directly involved in food production farmers. Testimonials from farmers who have adopted genetically modified crops often highlight the benefits they have experienced, such as increased yields, reduced pesticide use, and lower labor costs. They speak of the ability of GMOs to help them overcome challenges such as drought, pests, and diseases, improving their livelihoods and enhancing food security in their communities. However, not all farmers' experiences with GMOs have been positive. Some farmers express concerns about the high cost of genetically modified seeds, the potential for herbicide-resistant weeds to develop, and the dependence on large corporations that control the production and distribution of GMOs. These diverse perspectives underscore the need for balanced and nuanced conversations about the benefits and challenges of GMO adoption, recognizing that the experiences of farmers can vary widely depending on factors such as location, crop type, and farm size. Section 8. The Future of Food, Navigating the Complexities of GMOs in Agriculture. As we look to the future of food production, the debate over GMOs is likely to intensify, driven by a confluence of factors, including a growing global population, increasing demand for food, and the urgent need to address climate change. Proponents of GMOs view biotechnology as a powerful tool to address these challenges, arguing that genetically modified crops can help produce more food on less land, reduce agriculture's environmental footprint, and enhance the nutritional content of staple crops. They envision a future where GMOs play a central role in creating a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable food system. Critics of GMOs, however, remain wary of placing too much faith in technological solutions, arguing that they often address symptoms rather than root causes. They advocate for a more holistic approach to food systems transformation, one that prioritizes agroecology, biodiversity conservation, and social justice. Navigating the complexities of GMOs in agriculture will require ongoing dialogue, rigorous scientific research, robust regulatory frameworks, and a commitment to finding common ground to ensure a future where everyone has access to safe, nutritious, and affordable food. Section 9. Conclusion. A call to action for a sustainable and equitable food system. The debate over GMOs is not merely a scientific or technological one. It's a profound reflection of our values, priorities, and aspirations for the future of food. Whether we embrace or reject GMOs, we must acknowledge the urgency of transforming our food systems to ensure that they are sustainable, equitable, and just. This transformation will require a multifaceted approach that encompasses technological innovation, ecological stewardship, social equity, and economic justice. It demands a commitment to listening to diverse perspectives, engaging in respectful dialogue, and finding common ground to create a future where everyone has a seat at the table and a voice in shaping the food systems that sustain us.